On a quiet December night in Jamaica, the air feels a little different. The breeze is cool, carrying with it the faint smell of wood smoke, baking cake, and something sweet and spicy you can't quite name at first. In the distance, a dog barks once and settles. Somewhere, a radio softly plays an old-time Christmas song. As you listen, you're invited to get comfortable, to let your body grow heavy and relaxed. You might be lying down or sitting back in a favorite chair. Your eyes can stay open for a while, picturing the scenes, or they can gently close and simply let the story wash over you. There is nothing you need to do. Just listen, breathe, and drift. Tonight, we're walking slowly through a Jamaican Christmas, through old-time country memories and the brighter lights of today, through kitchens and verandas, churchyards and street corners, all woven together in one long, gentle story. Long before the big shops and imported decorations, Christmas in the Jamaican countryside began with simple things: soap, water, paint, and patience. Your grandmother remembers it this way. In the weeks before Christmas, the whole yard would come alive with activity. The first sign that Christmas was coming wasn't the lights or the music. It was the smell of whitewash. Walls were washed down, inside and out. Wooden floors were scrubbed with coconut brush until they almost shone. Then, on a bright morning, somebody would mix up the whitewash, lime and water, stirred in a bucket until it became a thin, milky paint. With long strokes, they would brush it over the walls, the stones at the side of the pathway, the little fence at the gate. It made everything look fresh, clean, and new, as if the house itself was putting on its best dress for Christmas. Inside, curtains came down and were washed and starched. Sometimes, for Christmas, there were new curtains, bright floral patterns or delicate lace that let in the light. Crochet doilies, carefully made by hand over many evenings, were rinsed and laid out to dry in the sun, then placed on tabletops, the backs of chairs, and on top of the radio or the TV set if there was one. Furniture was polished until it gleamed, often with homemade polish that had its own warm, familiar scent. Bedspreads were changed. The best sheet, the best spread, the best cushion covers. Those were for Christmas, and perhaps for no other day. In those days, there might not have been a tall, store-bought tree in the corner. Instead, people decorated with what they had: a carefully chosen branch, a small potted plant, or a sprig of local greenery set in a vase. A few shiny ornaments, saved from year to year, might be added. And of course, there were peppermint candies, white and red, sweet and pretty, sometimes set in bowls for visitors, and sometimes tied with thread and hung up like tiny, edible decorations. Your grandmother remembers the feeling of all this activity. The grown-ups moving around with purpose, the clatter of basins, the swish of brooms, the smell of soap, and that quiet excitement that said, "Something special is coming." You can almost hear the soft brush on the wall, the rattle of buckets, the murmur of voices working together. As you imagine this, let your own mind feel freshly whitewashed and lightened. Old dust brushed away, new curtains of thought hung up, everything put in order. You are preparing too, for rest, for calm, for a gentle Christmas of the mind. Today, in many Jamaican homes, you will find Christmas trees lit with strings of small glowing lights. There might be glittering ornaments, tinsel draped over branches, and wrapped presents at the base. Supermarkets and plazas are bright with decorations, and the streets in towns and cities shimmer with electric color. But if you listen beneath the buzz of the lights, you can still hear the echoes of a simpler time. In old-time Jamaica, especially in the countryside, decorations were often made by hand. Bits of colored paper cut into chains, bows tied from leftover fabric, flowers picked from the yard and arranged carefully. Sometimes a branch, trimmed, washed, and planted in a sand-filled box, would be adorned with whatever little treasures a family had. A few glass baubles, maybe a string of beads, a carefully saved length of shiny ribbon. Peppermint candies might hang from strings, catching the light and tempting children who knew they had to wait. Today, artificial trees and store-bought ornaments sit side by side with these older touches. A peppermint candy still appears in a child's stocking or on a table. A sprig of real greenery might be tucked in among the plastic branches, carrying the scent of the outdoors into the living room. The decorations have grown more elaborate, but the heart of it is still the same. An effort to make the home feel special, welcoming, and bright. A way to signal that this time is not like all the other times, that something hopeful is in the air. As you listen, picture both worlds at once. A small wooden house with freshly whitewashed walls and handmade decorations, and a modern home with blinking lights and a tall green tree. See them gently overlapping in your mind, as if time has folded in on itself. Everything is glowing softly. Everything is ready. If you ask many Jamaicans what Christmas smells like, they might tell you it smells like sorrel and Christmas cake. Your mother might remember watching her own mother or grandmother in the kitchen, a big enamel basin filled with dark red sorrel petals, fresh ginger, and pieces of pimento. Water boiled and poured over the mixture, and the whole house filled with a rich, tangy scent. The sorrel was left to steep, sometimes overnight, sometimes longer, until it was deep and flavorful. Then it was strained and sweetened, often with a little rum added for the adults, poured into glass bottles and lined up like precious jewels on the counter. Nearby, there might be another bowl, this one filled with mixed fruits that had been soaking for weeks or even months in wine and rum. Raisins, cherries, prunes, and other dried fruits, all dark and glistening. This was for the Christmas cake. Baking day was a special day. Butter, sugar, eggs, flour, spices, everything measured carefully. The fruits were blended or chopped, folded into the batter, and then the heavy tins were filled and placed into the oven. In old times, that oven might have been part of a wood-fire stove, the heat carefully monitored by experience and feel rather than by a digital dial. The smell of the baking cake drifted through the house, making every child's mouth water. Sometimes the cake was glazed or decorated. Sometimes it was left plain, but always it was treated with respect. It was not everyday cake. It was Christmas cake. In today's Jamaica, you can still find sorrel everywhere in December, in homes, in shops, at roadside stands. You can buy Christmas cake from bakeries, supermarkets, or small home businesses. The tools and methods may have changed, but the flavors are familiar, comforting, and full of memory. Gently imagine yourself stepping into one of those kitchens. The air is warm. A pot on the stove gently simmers sorrel. Someone stirs a thick brown cake mixture with a wooden spoon, turning it slowly. There is soft conversation, perhaps an old carol playing in the background. A child is allowed to lick the spoon, just once. As you breathe in, picture the spicy, sweet scent. As you breathe out, feel yourself relax a little more. Beyond cake and sorrel, there is the heart of the Christmas dinner itself. In many homes, Christmas isn't complete without gungu peas and rice. Unlike the red kidney beans used in everyday rice and peas, gungu peas, plump and pale green or brown, are a special treat for the season. They are cooked with coconut milk, thyme, scallion, garlic, and a little Scotch bonnet pepper for flavor, then mixed with rice until every grain carries the taste of the season. Your grandmother might remember a big pot on the fire, steam rising, the smell of coconut and seasonings filling the yard. Someone lifts the lid just enough to let the steam escape, then closes it again, knowing the rice must finish quietly. Beside the rice, a ham often takes pride of place on the Christmas table. Glazed with pineapple slices and cloves, it comes out of the oven glistening, the edges slightly caramelized, the smell rich and savory. In some homes, curried goat or chicken sits alongside, golden and fragrant. There might be potato salad, coleslaw, and a variety of other dishes, each with its own family twist. In the old days, not every family could afford a big ham every year. Sometimes, ham came as a treat shared between neighbors or as a gift from someone working in town. People made do with what they had: a pot of gungu and rice, maybe a smaller cut of meat, perhaps a whole roasted chicken carefully seasoned. What made it Christmas wasn't the amount of food, but the care and love put into preparing it, and the way it was shared. Today, many Jamaican families still gather around a table that looks very similar: gungu rice and peas, ham, sorrel, cake, and more. Supermarkets and butcher shops start to feel busy well before Christmas Day, as people line up to buy ingredients that will become part of their family memories. As you picture this feast, you don't need to feel hungry. You can simply see it in your mind like a painting. The soft brown of the rice, the pink and gold of the ham, the deep red of the sorrel, the dark, rich slice of cake on a small plate. Around the table you see faces, some older, some younger, smiling, talking, passing dishes, making sure no one's plate stays empty. You can feel the warmth of that table inside you, a sense of being welcome, of being part of something, of being cared for. Christmas in Jamaica has its own soundtrack. In the old days, your grandmother might remember carolers walking from house to house. Sometimes it was a church group, sometimes just neighbors and friends. They would gather under a tree or outside a gate, and their voices would rise together in familiar songs. Silent Night, O Come All Ye Faithful, and Jamaican favorites with rhythms that felt like home. In some places, there were traces of Junkunu, a masquerade tradition with roots in Africa and Europe. A few costumed figures, drums beating softly, maybe a cowhead or horsehead mask, moving through the street in a blur of sound and color. Children might watch from a safe distance, half delighted, half unsure, as the characters danced and pranced by. In many communities, there was also Grand Market on Christmas Eve. Town centers and squares would fill with vendors selling toys, sweets, balloons, and small trinkets. Children walked along holding their parents' hands, eyes wide at the lights and stalls. Music played from every corner. Ska, reggae, and Christmas songs mixed together into one long, joyful sound. Today, the music of Christmas in Jamaica includes everything from traditional hymns to reggae and dancehall versions of carols. Speakers in shops and taxis play familiar tunes, sometimes with a bass line that makes your shoulders want to sway, even if you're just standing still. Churches hold carol services, concerts, and special events. In between the bustling songs, there are quiet moments too. Someone might hum a hymn while washing dishes. A radio might play softly in the background as sorrel is poured into bottles. A child might sing to themselves while looking at the tree. As you listen to this story, you can imagine these sounds gently overlapping. A distant drum, a soft reggae carol, the murmur of a crowd at Grand Market, and then the hush of a late-night moment when the streets grow still and only the crickets sing. Christmas in Jamaica is not just about food and decorations. It is also a time for performances and spiritual gatherings. In Kingston, one of the long-standing traditions is the pantomime at the Ward Theatre. Each year, a new show blends music, dance, humor, and story, drawing families into a shared experience of laughter and reflection. People dress up, travel into town, and sit in the darkened theater as the curtain rises and the stage comes alive. In the countryside, the performance might not be on a formal stage. It might be on a veranda, in a yard, or in a small community center. Children put on little skits. Churches stage Christmas plays. Stories are told aloud. Bible stories, Anansi stories, stories of old-time Christmas when things were simpler but just as sweet. Interwoven with the season's joy are the deeper spiritual traditions of kumina and revivalism in some communities. During this time of year, gatherings of prayer, drumming, and singing may take on an added sense of thankfulness and hope. People give thanks for seeing another year, for surviving hardships, for the gift of community. And when someone in the community has passed on, there may be a nine night, a wake where songs are sung, stories are told, and the person's life is remembered with both tears and laughter. Sometimes, these gatherings happen during December, blending grief and celebration in a single space. Your grandmother might remember sitting quietly at the edge of a veranda or yard, listening as elders talked. They spoke about Christmases long ago, when there was no electricity, no store-bought tree, no imported toys. They described lanterns hung from nails, homemade kites, a single cherished rag doll or wooden truck. They talked about the neighbors who have since passed on, the way everybody used to pull together, sharing what they had. As you imagine these scenes, see yourself sitting there too, perhaps as a small child, perhaps as you are now, just listening. The voices wash over you, soothing and steady. The stories rise and fall like waves. You don't have to remember every detail. You only need to feel the comfort of being in a circle of people, held by their words. One of the quiet joys of a Jamaican Christmas is the way food travels from house to house. Your mother might remember the knock on the door or the call at the gate. Good night. Merry Christmas. Me bring a little something for you. A plate of food, carefully covered, would change hands. On it, a little slice of ham, some gungo rice and peas, maybe a piece of cake or a small serving of pudding. In return, another plate might be sent out, with sorrel or some of whatever that particular household had cooked. It wasn't about showing off. It was about saying, "You are part of us. We are thinking of you." In many communities, this spirit of sharing still lives on. Even if the plates are fewer now, even if people live behind higher walls or are busier with work, there is still a deep understanding that Christmas is a time to look beyond your own gate. Sometimes that sharing extends beyond food. A neighbor might lend a hand with whitewashing, help hang curtains, or watch the children while someone goes to town. In today's world, it might be a ride to the supermarket or a quick message checking in on an older relative or friend. As you rest, think of that gesture. A plate offered through a doorway, warm food resting under foil, the weight of it in both hands. Feel the gentleness in that moment. The giver and the receiver both belonging to something larger, a community, a shared life, a tradition. In the same way, you can imagine that this story is a little plate of memory being passed to you. You can take what you need from it: comfort, nostalgia, curiosity, and leave the rest for another night. After Christmas Day passes and the leftovers are tucked away, another special night waits just around the corner. Old Year's Night, or New Year's Eve. In Jamaica, many people spend this night in church at a watch night service, praying, singing, and giving thanks for the year that is gone and the year to come. At midnight, there may be hugs, tears, shouts of Happy New Year, and the ringing of bells. Others gather in town squares, on beaches, or in yards to watch fireworks. Bursts of color light up the sky, reflected in dark water or on the surface of car windscreens. Children squeal in delight. Adults smile quietly, perhaps thinking of all that the last year has brought. Among some families and communities, there are quieter fortune-telling traditions as well. One of the most well-known is the egg divination. Late on Old Year's night, a raw egg is cracked into a glass of water and left untouched. In the morning, before the sun rises too high, the shape formed by the egg white is examined. Some see ships, houses, or paths in the patterns, and these shapes are taken as hints about what the new year might hold. Others might read tea leaves or cards, or simply sit and talk about their hopes and resolutions, whether spoken aloud or kept in the heart. Just as at Christmas, there is food. Some people cook a special pot of soup, or fry fish, or prepare a late-night snack to share as midnight approaches. Sorrel might still be flowing. Music plays softly in the background. Reggae, gospel, or soft soul. Your grandmother may remember sitting up late, fighting sleep, determined to see the old year out and the new year in. She might remember nodding off in someone's lap, only to wake to the sound of fireworks or the chorus of Happy New Year traveling down the street. As you think of this, picture the night sky over Jamaica once more. The stars, the bursts of color, the faint smell of sulfur in the air. Then, after the excitement, imagine the sky settling again into quiet. The fireworks drifting away like dreams. So much has changed. In your grandmother's time, simple things mattered greatly. Maybe a new dress for Christmas service, a fresh pair of shoes, a small toy, a slice of cake, a glass of sorrel with plenty of ice, whitewash on the walls, clean sheets on the bed, and neighbors dropping by with a plate. Today, there may be more lights, more gadgets, more pre-packaged treats, and bigger stores full of decorations. Children might write lists with electronics and imported toys. Messages might travel by phone instead of by footsteps and knocks on the door. But if you look closely, you'll see that the heart of Jamaican Christmas remains much the same. There is still the desire to make the home beautiful. There is still the joy of special food cooked with time and care. There is still music, laughter, and the pull of old songs that everybody knows the words to. There is still the quiet moment at night when the tree lights are off, the dishes are washed, and someone stands at a window feeling grateful to see another Christmas. And there are the memories, passed down like carefully folded linens from one generation to the next. Stories of whitewashed walls, sorrel brewed on a coal stove, children peeping through curtains to see if they could catch a glimpse of Santa, even if they weren't quite sure what he would look like in their part of the world. As you lie here now, listening, you can hold both worlds in your mind. Old-time simple Christmas and modern busy Christmas. You don't have to choose between them. You can let them sit together gently, like two relatives on the same veranda, talking softly into the night. Now imagine that the preparations are finished. The walls are whitewashed. The curtains are hung. The cake is baked. The ham is sliced. Gungu peas and rice rest in the pot, waiting for tomorrow's plate. The tree, whether it is a modest branch or a tall, decorated fir, stands quietly in the corner. Outside, the sky over Jamaica is dark and full of stars. A few distant fireworks bloom and fade. Somewhere, a last carol plays on a radio. Somewhere else, a church bell rings, then falls silent. Inside, the house is calm. The bustle of the day has settled. Dishes are washed and stacked. Floors are swept. Someone turns off the last bright light and leaves only a small lamp glowing. You are here in this quiet moment. You have walked through the memories of old-time Christmas, through the flavors and sounds, the laughter and the stories. You have seen how the past and present hold hands in this season, how traditions live on in small gestures and simple acts of care. There is nothing more you need to do now. You may feel your body sinking a little deeper into comfort. Your breathing has its own slow rhythm, like a wave rolling onto sand and back again. Thoughts may still drift in and out, like fireflies in the dark, but they do not need to be chased. Jamaica's Christmas continues, somewhere out there, people laughing, cooking, singing, sharing. For now, you are free to rest, held in the gentle knowledge that the same spirit of warmth, community, and hope that fills those homes can also fill your heart. If sleep is coming, you can welcome it like a soft blanket, like a freshly washed sheet on a Christmas bed. If you are simply resting, you can stay here as long as you like, floating in the quiet. The night is peaceful. The house is still. The season is full of love, and you can let go and drift.